Welcome to the Live to 110 podcast. I'm your host, Wendy Myers. You can find me on live110.com. And here is my co-host, the tough as nails General Leigh Lowery.
Hi, you guys. I'm excited to be here with you all today.
Well, today Leigh and I are going to have a little bit of fun. We are going to demonstrate how to do a hair mineral analysis. That's a protocol that I'm certified in. It's a program called Nutritional Balancing that I'm going to put Leigh on, and it's what I put all my clients on. And we are going to use a hair mineral analysis as a basis to design her personal program. So the hair test will show the diet she should be on, the supplements that she should be on, and it also incorporates detoxification protocols and lifestyle changes.
So she will be cutting my hair today.
Yeah, so we are going to be cutting a little part of a little tiny section of her hair right at the base of her skull, and that's going to show us a little bit of info, a little bit of insight into what's going on inside Leigh, inside of her.
So let me just say the disclaimer before we start. Please keep in mind that this program is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or health condition, and it is not a substitute for professional medical advice. The Live to 110 podcast is solely informational in nature. Please consult your healthcare practitioner before engaging in any treatment or fitness regimen that we suggest on this show.
And if you're interested in shedding a few pounds, you can download my Live to 110 by Weighing Less e-guide on the site, live110.com. Just go to the big welcome graphic on the front page and enter your email. And you'll immediately be sent the free 35-page guide that is based on the latest science on weight loss.
Okay, I have a question for you, Wendy. So, how is the book coming along, first of all?
Well, it's amazing. It's almost going to be up on the site. It'll probably be up on the site by the time this podcast airs. And I'm really excited about it. This is my first book. It's called The Modern Paleo Survival Guide. And it's basically, obviously, about the paleo diet. But it's about a more modern version that's based on the latest science, because a lot of stuff has transpired, a lot of research since Loren Cordain published one of the first books on paleo called The Paleo Diet. And my book is also about incorporating healthy lifestyle tips that are in line with how our bodies have evolutionarily been designed since caveman times. So we kind of need to get back to basics, how we used to live ages ago. And it's also, more importantly, and the subject of today's podcast, it's about detoxification. Because you can be eating the best diet, the best paleo diet, following it perfectly, living the caveman lifestyle, going to bed at 8 p.m. every night and doing all these healthy lifestyle things. But if you are not on a lifelong detoxification plan, it's not likely you're going to live a long, disease-free life. That's the reality of modern life today. So my book very much touches on the three essential components of health, which are diet, lifestyle, and detoxification.
Wow. So how did you personally get into detoxing?
Well, I one day got my hands on a copy of the China Study, stupidly, and I, at that point, decided I had to go vegetarian, and then I went vegan, and I spent about 2 years doing that. The end of that 2 years, I did not feel well. I couldn't think. I had brain fog. My energy level had decreased. I couldn't, my memory was horrible. Emotionally, I was depressed, and then I was going into rages. My poor husband, I abused him so badly. And I realized now that was copper toxicity, because many people on a vegetarian and vegan diet become copper toxic, and it becomes worse and worse and worse. And there's a blog post on my website called Copper Toxicity Syndrome, if anyone wants to learn more about that. So I was copper toxic. Clearly, I got so ill at one point. I went to the doctor. I had $4,000 worth of tests done, and I, found out that I had adrenal fatigue. I had thyroid insufficiency. I had B12 deficiency, vitamin D deficiency. I had anemia, and all these things, all these health issues were combining to make me feel like crap. And I was having trouble losing weight as well. I was going to bed hungry every night, and I was working out like 6 to 8 hours a week. And it just wasn't working. Nothing was working. Who am I? This is not who I am. I want my old metabolism back, my old brain, my old energy level, my this optimistic feeling I had when I was young. I wanted that back. And so, and clearly these health conditions did not develop solely as a result of the vegetarian diet. These things take years to develop, adrenal fatigue and thyroid insufficiency. But the vegan diet was the nail in the coffin in my health. And it just, I'm very thankful that I did try that diet, because it brought my health conditions to a head, to a point where I had to take action and do something about them. So I'm thankful for that. And when I went to the doctor, I had all these problems. Her solution was to put me on hormone replacement therapy to replace my low estrogen and testosterone levels, and to put me on thyroid replacement therapy, which was putting me on Synthroid, basically, to replace my thyroid hormones. And I thought, no, I don't think I'm going to do that, because I've had read so much about how new studies show that hormone replacement therapy causes cancer. And this is not surprising, because we know when you have too much estrogen in your body, which most hormone replacement therapy causes too much estrogen and estrogen imbalance, that leads to cancer. That's why we get cancer. One of the reasons is just too much of an estrogenic state in our body. So that set me on a search for other answers, alternative ways. I thought, I just don't want to supplement the hormones my glands aren't making. I want to heal my glands. I want my thyroid to make the hormones it's supposed to make. How do I do that? And so it took me so long. It took me, probably 6 months of intense reading all kinds of books and websites and all this stuff. And I finally was just writing my blog. And I found, I was researching a blog post on infrared saunas, and I happened upon Dr. Wilson's website, drlwilson.com. I was reading about it there, and it started talking about nutritional balancing and how it heals health conditions and the adrenals and thyroid. And I thought, that's interesting. And it looked like a pretty comprehensive program. And so I called up a practitioner in my area. Mine was Nikki Moses at mosesnutrition.com. And it was $250 for the test, $250. And I did the test, and I was skeptical at first, how a hair test is going to really do a whole lot for my health. But I started the program, I took a leap of faith, and I took all the supplements that were recommended to me based on my hair mineral analysis, and my health improved dramatically. I mean, my physical and mental health today is dramatically different than it was 2 years ago when I started this program. I mean, like night and day.
Wow. And
for you too, Leigh, I'm very excited for what this program is going to be able to do for you. And one, we're going to do a hair test today to kind of show where her health is at. What heavy metal toxicities she may have, and what mineral deficiencies she has, and what the implications those have for her health.
It'll be really interesting to see how they correlate with what's been going on with me. I feel pretty good overall, but I do have some, I think everyone has little symptoms that we just don't pay attention to because they don't completely interrupt your life, but you'd rather live without them. So I'm really excited to see how they correlate with some of the mineral deficiencies and things that might be toxic in my body right now.
Yeah, because you were just filling out the form, the little symptom form.
Right.
And you're like, I have the bruising and some spider veins and things like that. And I thought, well, that's copper toxicity.
Well, yeah, like get rid of those spider veins. If I can stop having spider veins, I would be thrilled. That would be great.
And the bruising is caused by copper toxicity, and the veins, the spider veins, are kind of weakened veins. Those can be caused by zinc deficiency, because zinc is used to repair our veins. And for me, I had so many little things resolve on this program. I had like when I first started, I wasn't sleeping well. I was waking up every night for years in the middle of the night, and I'd literally be up from 1 to 3 hours. I'd be up from 2 a.m. to maybe 4 or 5. Luckily, my husband was supporting me at the time. I didn't have to work, thank God, or I'd just be dead.
Yeah. Well, that will stress you out, just being up those hours in the night. I can't even imagine.
It is, because cumulatively, it really impacts your health and your mood and everything in your health. And so immediately, within a month, boom, I was sleeping well. I just had a calcium deficiency. Calcium and magnesium are the minerals that really relax your body. And then so many little things cleared up. Like, I don't get canker sores anymore. What else? I don't have sensitive teeth anymore, because my teeth have been totally mineralized on this program. So it just really does so many things. I mean, not to mention that my adrenal fatigue and thyroid insufficiency have healed, for the most part. They're not completely healed. It takes time to heal those health issues. But for the most part, I feel so much better. My brain fog has cleared to a large degree. Still have my days, though.
Sure,
where I'm like, I just cannot find a word, or I just lose my train of thought. But it's getting a lot better. My memory has improved drastically. But so basically, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do a little hair test on Leigh.
It's exciting. So do you think people, that are listening, is it good for the average person who is out there? Do they need to detox? Does everyone need to detox?
Yes. Everyone today, it's just depending on what degree, has toxic levels of aluminum, cadmium, arsenic, lead, mercury, nickel. They have, copper is an essential mineral, but many people have very high levels of copper, like I did when I first started the program, because I'd been vegetarian.
How do we get copper? Sorry to interrupt you. I just, if so many people are having these high levels, where is copper coming into our system at such a high level?
Well, it's coming from copper water pipes. It's in tap water because copper is very good at killing bacteria. So they actually add it to the tap water.
Oh, wow.
And that's something that's not tested for. People don't think of it as toxic. It's in a lot of foods. It's in soy. It is in avocados. It's in chocolate, which is my personal favorite.
Maybe that's where I'm getting so much copper. We'll find out.
And it's in organ meats. It's very, very high in organ meats, except for heart. So if you are copper toxic, I tend to tell people, even if they're on a paleo diet, to lay off the liver, and other organ meats until their copper levels kind of normalize. And so I don't personally eat it, even though I want to. I read so much about how healthy it is, but it's not right for me at this time until my copper levels kind of even out. But people also get copper. There's so many things in our environment. Beans and nuts as well. And these are all, notice soy, beans, nuts, those are all vegetarian proteins. So this is one of the reasons why people get lots of copper accumulated. But it's also, more importantly, from low zinc levels. And everyone has low zinc. And the reason they do is because we've been told for decades to not eat red meat. Red meat's bad for our health. We know it's saturated fat's bad, causes high cholesterol. BS. Okay, the latest research does not show this. It just does not. It doesn't jive. Eating red meat does not cause high cholesterol and heart disease. So we put that to rest. So because people are trying to be healthy and not eating red meat, they have low zinc levels because red meat is full of zinc. So are shellfish, and zinc is also found in very small amounts in pumpkin seeds or pepitas. But unfortunately, because we're not getting enough, we're zinc deficient, and that since zinc opposes copper, we have too much copper. So that's the
really interesting.
The long version.
Great. I love it. So wait, tell me now. So we go to the solution, and that's really that nutritional balancing science. Can you explain to me and everyone else out there what that is?
Oh, before I do that, I forgot one thing. Another reason people need to detox is because there are 100,000 environmental chemicals in the world today. Because of industrial dumping and manufacturing, there are so many chemicals. The EPA has done studies and established that we have over 700 chemicals on average in our body. And these are coming from our personal care products. They're in the air, food, and water. You cannot escape them no matter what you do. And we also are getting heavy metals from our air, food, and water as well. So this is why people need to do a lifelong comprehensive detoxification program like nutritional balancing science. And so what this program is it's a program that was developed by Dr. Paul Eck about 40 years ago, and he was a brilliant biochemist that did about 100,000 different hair tests and correlated them to health conditions. So he kind of cracked the code in what hair test will show when someone has a certain health condition like adrenal fatigue or thyroid function. The test shows these health conditions on the test, and it correlates other things too as well. And he also figured out, because he was a mad scientist, he loved studying minerals and their effects on the body and whatnot, and heavy metals effects on the body. And so he learned through supplementation and other tricks how to balance the body's biochemistry, and to the point where when all of your minerals are balanced, you enjoy a perfect state of health. You enjoy just boundless energy like you had when you were young. You enjoy, you can have a disease-free life. You can heal health conditions. At the very least, you can improve them. Some conditions like neuropathy are that neurological damage is very impossible to reverse. It could reverse a little bit, but those are the health conditions that tend to be kind of resistant to help with nutritional balancing science. And so that begs the idea that you want to start thinking about your health and working on your health to improve it before you get really sick. You want to start working today before you get sick. And so what this program does is, Dr. Eck worked with Dr. Wilson. Dr. L. Wilson, Dr. Lawrence Wilson is the main proponent today of nutritional balancing science, and he spent about 14 years working with Dr. Eck, Dr. Paul Eck, and kind of trained under him and learned the whole science. And now he continues to develop it. So you can go on his website, drlwilson.com. He's got 900 articles on his site about toxicity and every imaginable health condition, about nutritional balancing. And you can go on my site too. I've got lots of stuff on nutritional balancing as well. And so basically, Dr. Wilson is the main proponent today. He personally looks at every single hair test, every hair mineral analysis, and recommends the supplements that person should be taking based on their medications, their diet, and their hair test. So it's all overseen by a medical doctor. And what the program essentially does, what it entails, is diet, lifestyle, supplements, and detoxification protocols. So someone is going to work on their diet. The diet's basically eating meat, which is very mineral rich, and lots of cooked vegetables, which are very, very mineral rich. The supplements, you take about 7-8 supplements that are all designed specifically for your hair mineral analysis. They're based on your test. And we do detox protocols like infrared saunas and coffee enemas, which you can find articles on my site in regards to that. Lots of stuff on infrared saunas and coffee enemas, podcasts as well, because those are extremely important detox protocols. And then we address lifestyle as well, like sleeping and exercising, resting, meditating, and things of that nature.
I really like it because I like the sound of it. I'm excited to do it because, it's not a one shoe fits all, one size fits all. I think in so many experiences I've had somebody come to me with supplementation and say, here's the magic pack. It's you've got your calcium, you've got your magnesium, but it's not a personalized look at my specific health. So it sounds great. They tell me my cellular health is going to be perfect, so I'll be getting everything I need out of the supplements that my foods aren't giving me. But really, how can they know that? So that's what sounds amazing to me.
Yeah, you really need to know what's going on inside the body. You need to know your mineral levels to be able to give you what you need, because some people need more calcium than others. Everyone needs calcium. So there's all this BS going around about how we shouldn't be supplementing calcium. There's these new studies out. I don't buy them for 1 second.
I don't either.
Because it's insane. What we need is bioavailable calcium. What most people are supplementing with are bad forms of calcium that we don't absorb very well. Or they're eating pasteurized dairy products, which deforms the calcium in it. It changes it into a form that's unavailable that we don't use. And for me, my first hair test, I had really high calcium levels, and all this stuff was just depositing in my joints and my tissues, and I had really stiff muscles and achy, stiff joints. And it was calcification of my tissues. My body was just trying to get rid of it, like however it can, dumping it in the hair and dumping it in my body. But when I started supplementing bioavailable calcium, my calcium levels came down on my hair test.
Wow, that is really interesting. I'm interested because I had a hip fracture back in 2007. I was pretty young. Wow. And so I've had some things in my life along my path and journey that don't make sense, and I'm excited to see if we can make some sense of it.
Yeah, that's pretty profound that you had an injury like that, that your hip broke.
I know.
So that's a sign maybe you have some weaknesses. I mean, certainly there's some blunt force traumas. No matter how strong your bones are, they're going to cave. But this program, because you're taking so many minerals, and it just totally mineralizes your body. It's every aspect of your body, not just your bones. And so it's really, really profound.
So we're going to cut my hair and do this little hair test analysis, the mineral analysis. I'm actually going to have you take a picture of it, and I'm going to put it on my Facebook page later just so people can see how big the chunk is. It's not that big. And then can you tell me exactly like what we're going to see, What does it show?
Well, what you're going to see, and there's going to be a Leigh's hair mineral analysis posted on the blog post. Oh, did I mention that, Leigh?
Oh, no, I'm excited. We got to take some pics.
Yeah, so there'll be her hair test posted on the blog post to this podcast, so you can see exactly what we're talking about, and you can look at it on the first part of the show. We're going to cut her hair, then we got to wait a couple weeks to get the results back, and so the second part of the show, which we're going to record later, will be I'll be reading her results, so you could be sitting right there
live for the result reading,
the campfire side, storytelling of a clue into Leigh's health.
Yeah, not as exciting as maybe the results show for The Voice, but in the same category.
Yeah,
for
and
me.
you can look at her hair test on the blog post and follow along with reading of the results and interpretation.
So excited.
Yeah, so for right now,
so let's cut.
Okay, why don't you sit over here closer to me?
All right.
And then I'm gonna just hold up some of the back of your hair, and I will cut the rest.
Oh, so exciting.
Yes. Okay, so hold up. I'm going to be cutting her hair right on the back, right on the very back of her head at the base of the skull. And you don't notice it at all. It's maybe a size of the hair, a width of the hair that's about the width of a pen, so to speak. And
it's not that bad.
No, it's not too bad at all. And let me just get a nice little sized chunk here. We might have to cut 2 chunks.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, well, you can cut chunks from like 2 different sides of the hair. You can cut it from different areas if you need to.
Okay.
And basically what the hair test shows is it shows your calcium levels, your magnesium, your copper levels, your sodium, potassium, your toxic metals like here we go. It shows your toxic metals like arsenic and lead, and so you got a nice little chunk there.
Yeah, I can't wait for my hairdresser to see the little chunk.
You want to take a picture of it?
Yeah, let me take a picture with my chunk. Hold on. Let's see.
Yeah, and
grab it.
Okay, Okay. There's your chunk. Yay.
Hold on.
All right, a nice selfie there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're gonna cut another little chunk just so make sure we have enough.
Okay. So do you just send that little portion that you cut? Like you cut the whole strand, but you actually send the portion that's closest to the...
Yeah, we just send the first inch of the hair, because that inch shows what's going on that's been dumped into the hair the last 3 months.
Do you want to go on this side?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Here.
Okay, good.
Hold that up. We'll go over here. We'll be under at the very bottom.
I have thin, fine hair, which is the funniest.
That's why I thought maybe since your hair's thin, because you have to have 1.1 grams of hair. Oh. So just to be on the safe side, I'm going to cut a little bit of extra.
That sounds good.
So that we don't get the call saying we have to send in more hair. And your results are delayed, because I know you want them so badly. You want them back. Okay, and so basically also what the hair test is going to show is all of your heavy metals. So you don't have to worry if you like went out drinking one night and then your hair, there we go, a nice little chunk there.
So, oh yeah, that's a good chunk.
So you don't have to worry if you went out drinking one night if it's going to affect the hair test results or whatnot, whatever you're doing that's bad. But it's going to show the last 3 months of, any kind of stress pattern. If you're super stressed out, that will show on the hair test, like if you had a family member pass away or you had surgery or any kind of really stressful event, that will show on your hair test because it shows certain stress patterns. It's hard to explain, but we'll be explaining it more when we get Leigh's hair test results.
Yeah, I'm excited because, I told her some of my symptoms, and I'll just share them a little bit with the audience, is that I had, I have had some strange bruising and some nightmares, staying up at night a little bit, and, just lulls in, I would say, lethargy. I have almost lethargy at times that feels a little bit like depression from time to time. And lastly, those ugly spider veins, which I think my mom gave me, but I'm finding out that genetics aren't the only thing here. So
yeah, I mentioned to Leigh that we are not a victim of our genetics. There's a new study of genetics called epigenetics, where we are finding out that we're not just a victim of our genes. We're not going to get the exact same diseases of our parents, because diet and lifestyle and environment play a tremendous role in turning on or turning off genes, in destroying DNA or building DNA up, in enhancing cell replication or hindering that process. So if you develop healthier lifestyle habits and diet than your parents, you may or may not develop those health conditions. Some things like I've heard cancer is only 2 to 3% of cancers are hands down, you're going to get them no matter what. There's some people, just for whatever reason, they are going to fall victim to cancer. But the rest of it, just because your father had cancer doesn't mean that you will too. Like for me, when my father died from cancer, that kicked me into gear into getting answers. How do I not go out like that? I do not want to end up with cancer. And this program is the exact perfect cancer prevention protocol, because you eat a diet, a species-appropriate diet, if you will, like we're zoo animals. You take the supplements that you're missing, that you personally are missing. You do detoxification protocols to detox all the chemicals in our body that are destroying our bodies. Our bodies are so overloaded today. Our livers are overloaded, our kidneys, that it needs assistance with doing the infrared saunas and coffee enemas. But albeit the coffee enemas are optional. I know some of you guys out there will be like, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that.
No shot.
But they are optional, but highly, highly recommended. Every person and client that I suggest do them, that tries them, gets totally into them because they make you feel so good.
Yeah, I'm going to try it.
Yeah, and then we ask you to sleep more and just slow down more. Slow your lifestyle down, because most people, they're just going. They're doing way too much. And it's when you're in a stressed out state, you cannot detox. You have to be in a relaxed state, like when you're sleeping, in order for the body to go into a state where it can detox. So if you're stressed all the time, you build up toxins even more than normal. And so that is why there is a nearly 50% cancer rate. Not to mention the autoimmune and the heart disease and the strokes and the high blood pressure and diabetes and all these other things we're afflicted with. They are completely preventable. You just have to balance your body's biochemistry. So that's it for today's show.
Awesome.
And we're going to read Leigh's hair test results on part 2. Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2 of reading Leigh Lowery's hair test. Are you excited?
I'm kind of nervous.
I know everyone gets kind of freaked out when they're about to get their hair test results, but it's fun. It's very informative, and I really find it fills in a lot of the blanks for people that they've been missing from their physician, answers they're not getting from their doctor, or they're not really able to piece together the pieces of the puzzle on the internet. It really answers a lot of questions for people, so I think it's just a really great tool. And if you guys want to understand what the hell I'm talking about, you can look at Leigh's hair test. You can find her hair graph on the blog post of this podcast. It's called Leigh Lowery's Gets Her Hair Test Results on live-to-110.com. And that way you can follow along and understand what I'm saying and referencing it. So basically what we're going to start out with is looking at these first 4 minerals. You'll see the calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. And those are stress indicators. They indicate basically how our stress reaction. They show whether we have adrenal fatigue or not. And basically you're showing a really good pattern here. Basically we're looking for a pattern that shows our stress level. So it will tell people it's hard to get into on this podcast, but it'll show basically Leigh has a step down pattern. That's a very, very good pattern to have. And she also is a slow metabolizer. She has a slowed metabolism, which is normal. Most people do have a slowed metabolism. Once they hit, 30, it can even happen even younger. Today people are getting really, really toxic. So our metabolisms and our adrenals and our thyroid are really kind of slowing down, and we're not able to get rid of toxins as quickly in our body. And then it's just this vicious cycle, and we become more and more, it's easier to gain weight. We become sicker and sicker, and it just continues.
I knew it.
Yeah. And you'll find if you gain weight easier than you did when you were younger,
excuse me,
guess what? You have a slowed metabolism, and it's really pretty much the norm. Most people have a slower metabolism than they did when they were younger. And this program speeds it up. You can get your metabolism back to where it's supposed to be by healing your adrenals and thyroid. That's actually the reason why I'm on this program.
Yeah, you know what? It's like, you're going to hear things like, oh, and you're this toxic and that toxic. But if you can tell me that I can possibly, make my metabolism increase and start burning fat, then I'm down.
Oh, yeah. That's the second I heard that, let me pop those pills and suck those down every day, happily. So basically, first we're going to look at your calcium levels. It's 104, and that's pretty high. We want it down to this 40 level.
Oh, wow. So
yeah.
That's really, really pretty high.
Yeah, it is pretty high. It's not as high as I've seen. I've had some people in 250 level.
Oh, wow.
So it's not that bad. That's kind of around where I started.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to see you down at that gray bar. But what that means is that you've got biounavailable calcium building up in your joints, arteries, and soft tissues. And what this means is that you've got all this biounavailable calcium. It's from pasteurized dairy, just from other sources, maybe poor quality supplements. Lots of additives in foods today have, poor quality calcium in them. And even though they sound like they're really healthy with vitamins added. So all this stuff builds up, your body can't use it, and it shuttles it away into your tissues and your arteries and your joints.
Oh, wow.
Just to get it out of the body, it can't use it. So what this program does is we supplement, even though you have a high calcium, we supplement with bioavailable calcium. And you'll see these levels start to come down back to normal. And that's what I did. I had really high calcium. I take calcium every single day. I have a really high quality form. And it's coming down.
It's so interesting. You take calcium to lower your biounavailable calcium.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because it flushes it out of the body.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive.
That's
but
really
it's one of the most important parts of this program is giving you the calcium your body needs, because your body's actually starving for calcium.
How wild is that?
Yeah.
You know, and I really don't have a lot of dairy in my diet, so I was always supplementing, but you're right. In my past, I always supplemented with, you know, probably a low-grade grocery store version of calcium. Mm-hmm. And the other fact that I had told you previously is that, you know, I had fractured my hip in 2007 at 31 years old.
Yeah.
So, you know, the question is, like, does that have anything? I've always been trying to get to the bottom of how could it, age?
It's possible. I mean, you possibly could have some osteopenia, which is the precursor to osteoporosis. But, you know, anyone, no matter how strong their bones, if there's enough force, that could happen. Sure. But it's good that you're on this program because you will prevent osteoporosis. You will completely remineralize your body.
Wonderful.
And heal that breakage point too. And so the next thing we're going to show, your magnesium levels look pretty good. What we're aiming for is this blue range in here, so the little blue area. That's the ideal ranges.
Oh, good.
So, you know, ideally we'd love to get to that gray bar, but the range is good too. So your magnesium looks good. At some point, you could be releasing toxic forms of magnesium, and that'll be shown as a big jump in that level. And this applies to any of the supplements or any of the minerals or heavy metals. If you have a big jump in any of them, you're releasing a toxic form. Because all the minerals, there's many, many different forms, but there's only specific forms the body can utilize.
Okay.
So we want to get rid of the stuff, the biounavailable forms or toxic forms that we've been accumulating. And then the next items you'll see are sodium and potassium. And these are basically our adrenal function. These show our adrenal function. Our adrenals control, they're little glands on top of our kidneys. They produce about 10 different hormones. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and cortisol, epinephrine, all the nice little hormones that make us all feel stressed out and anxious and whatnot. And when they're not working so hot, we are more susceptible to stress. We can more quickly elicit a stress response and feel stressed out and anxious and irritable. And so when the adrenals are working better, not only does it produce less cortisol and less of the stress hormones, but we produce more of the estrogen and progesterone and testosterone and keep those levels at normal ranges. Right. So we want those adrenal glands working real good, and so that's what is evidenced by the sodium potassium levels. Your levels look deceptively good. Unfortunately, this always happens on every first hair test. The levels are artificially elevated because we have toxic heavy metals that are irritating the glands and kind of propping them up, so to speak.
Okay.
Many of these heavy metals serve a purpose in our body, and they irritate the glands, and so they show them to be working better than they are. What's going to happen on the next test is it will come down. Those will come down, and we will see, fairly significant adrenal fatigue on those. It'll reveal your truer level of health on the second test.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the next one is iron, and I think that you'll be interested in this one just because you're into weightlifting and whatnot. So you have quite a high level of iron for the first test, and that's good because it shows that you're pushing it out, because we know that there's more stored. Because this is a high level one, we know you're pushing out a toxic form of iron.
Okay.
And so, are you taking iron supplements by any chance?
You know, at this point I pop like multivitamins that I know include it, but I don't take it by itself. Okay, yeah. So you are getting some iron. Well, we don't really recommend you supplement iron. And that's one thing on this program, our vitamins don't have any iron in them because it's almost always a toxic form of iron. Sure.
And it's better just to get it from red meat.
And I think that's probably why you see me at such high levels. I'm a big carnivore. So.
Yeah. And usually the levels in meat, it gives us just the right amount, but what we find is when the iron levels are real high on a first test, and this shows, on an ideal level here, but we know just from, and it's deceptive though, because we know just from looking at other hair tests, usually the first iron, the first test of iron will be quite a bit lower. So we know that there's some toxic levels of iron coming out just from other indicators in the test.
Sure.
It's a little bit confusing because all the minerals affect each other.
Right.
And the mineral levels don't correspond to levels that are in our blood. It's just showing what's dumping into our hair.
Okay.
And so essentially, we know that the iron is deceptively high just because of other indicators on the test. I won't get into it. It's kind of complicated, but just take my word for it.
Sure. And it's kind of like, I think what you told me before is you flush other things out of your system, like if I'm copper toxic and I flush that out, other things are going to raise and they're all going to affect each other.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, one level will affect another, and it's like kind of this domino effect. And what this program does is it supplements in such a way as to allow all of the mineral levels to raise to ideal levels.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting. And so basically, for most people, they eat too much red meat. That does affect your iron levels as well. And I do advocate red meat. I think we need to have red meat. It's essential. But it's probably good to keep it, once or twice a week, maybe 3 if you're lifting weights quite a bit as you are. But one thing I want to let people know is definitely want to avoid cooking in cast iron cookware unless it's coated like La Creuset or something, because the cast iron gives us a toxic form of iron. But this is mostly a problem if you cook acidic foods or you're scraping the pan, like if you have an iron fork or you're stirring with an iron spoon. You can scrape the iron and that can get into your food.
That's really interesting. I had no idea. I have La Creuset, but I also have a seasoned cast iron pan that we quite frequently use.
Maybe that's what this is from.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and so I thought that too. I actually, before my first hair test, I had gone out and bought a big cast iron pot because I'd read an article on the internet saying, get a little iron, because I was vegetarian. And I'm like, I need some iron. So I went out and thinking I was going to get some from a cast iron pot, and then I was schooled by my first nutritional balancing practitioner. Maybe that's not such a good idea.
Right, like not that kind of idea.
Yeah. And one of the biggest problems with high iron is inflammation.
Okay.
This occurs because iron attracts oxygen directly to it. And then when it contacts delicate body tissues, the little single oxygen molecule, termed a free radical, detaches and destroys body tissues.
Wow.
So if you have too much iron, you've got all this oxidant damage or free radical damage going on, which causes inflammation. So we want to bring those levels down. And there's also a concern for cancer. Because iron does have that oxygen attached to it. It stimulates the growth of bacteria and infections, because it's an oxygen transporter. And high iron it's also associated with diabetes, with heart disease, arthritis, Alzheimer's, and other health issues. And like I said, chronic infections, because it feeds them with oxygen. It can cause hair loss, hypothyroidism, hyperactive behavior, and even violence. And a big source for iron overload is flour, which is not only contributing to diabetes, the huge diabetes epidemic, but also because of how it spikes blood sugar, but also because it causes iron toxicity, because flour is enriched, so to speak, with a toxic form of iron not used by our bodies, so this just builds up in our liver and our body. And it stores in the liver, and it causes diabetes. It's a big cause of diabetes people don't realize. Not just the carbs, it's what's in the carbs too. And iron is also associated with anger and rage. The liver can be saturated with iron. And in Chinese medicine, the liver is the seat of iron. And this is also why a toxic congested liver is associated with an attitude of anger and rage. And iron, additionally, it accumulates in the amygdala. It's the part of the brain associated with anger and rage. And so whenever you have had a friend or a spouse or someone who's really angry all the time, or they have issues with anger, that's one of the causes. That's and really they just need a coffee enema to chill out.
I'm going to go get a coffee enema. I'll tell you a story another time, but I did have a brain scan, and they did see, for me, that area of my brain lit up as a more red area, and, obviously in the temporal lobes as well. And so one of the things he said is, like, do you have anger? Do you feel rage? And I don't. I mean, don't get me wrong, in traffic. But at the end of the day, it was a highlighted area. So for me, that's really interesting that correlates, because maybe, like it's destiny that I'm supposed to hear. This is how maybe I can fix that. You know?
See, that's what I said. This program, it fills in the gaps.
Yeah.
It gives you a lot of answers. That's why I love it so much. And then we're going to talk about copper. Your copper is really high. That's the next little mineral next to iron, to the right of iron. And copper toxicity, pretty much everyone today is copper toxic, unfortunately. I'm copper toxic. Every person I've tested either has overt or hidden copper toxicity. It's a big problem. It's because, zinc opposes copper. And when people are low in zinc, if they don't eat red meat, they're vegetarian. If they drink too much alcohol and other problems, that all depletes zinc. And many other things that deplete zinc. So we become copper toxic. And so we'll go into a little bit about it. A lot of your symptoms are copper symptoms. You've had some bruising, some depression, some brain fog. Those are going to all be due to copper toxicity. And one of the main reasons for copper imbalance is adrenal fatigue, which is showing on your hair test. And the main benefit of copper toxicity is emotional instability.
Oh, good.
And
I
had this really bad when I first started my hair test. It's one of the reasons I sought help with my doctor, and then I found nutritional balancing by just a stroke of luck. And I was really having a lot of emotional instability, torturing my husband shamelessly. And it was because I was copper toxic. And it was not me. It was just my body. My whole life, I'd never been emotionally unstable. I'd always been cool as a cucumber. But over time, I became copper toxic and my personality changed.
Wow.
But now I'm back to me. Now that I've balanced, I spent, a year and a half doing this program. I balanced my copper, and it's really great. But copper, it can really contribute to almost any mental disturbance. It can have, like I said, zinc opposes copper, and zinc is needed for the new brain or the cortex to function and to thrive and to develop. And this is the part of the brain developed specifically when ancient man began eating animal brains and the guts and things that were left over after humans were scavenging animals that other animals had killed. And they began acquiring zinc in the diet. And so this area of the brain is associated with the higher emotions, such as reasoning, compassion, and love. And it's how the more higher developed areas of our brain developed is with this introduction of zinc. And so that's why this area of our brain needs zinc to function. And often when there's an imbalance between copper and zinc, the person resorts to the older emotional part of their brain. In other words, they go cray-cray. and they're in their emotional animal brain rather than their higher thinking brain and rational reasoning brain. And this is the one thing that I love to lecture vegetarians about, because if you're not eating meat, you are going to become copper toxic. And then you're going to become cray-cray. And I'm not saying...
Funny, I know a lot of crazy vegetarians.
Yeah.
These people, actually vegans.
Yeah.
Most of my girlfriends.
Yeah, vegans have it worse off, but I'm not saying every person who's vegetarian or vegan is crazy. I'm just joking. But you will find, if you are not as emotionally stable as you used to be, this is why. And other symptoms and conditions associated with copper toxicity include moderate to suicidal depression and anxiety, violence, migraine headaches, very, very common one, PMS, spaciness, brain fog. You could have mind racing. You could have insomnia, nervousness, irritability, even anorexia. Zinc deficiency is a huge contributor to anorexia. Allergies. People think that they're just born with allergies. No, they're caused by nutrient deficiencies. In part, obsessive compulsive disorder, bipolar disorder, phobia, Tourette syndrome, schizophrenia, the list just goes on and on and on. And others that respond amazingly well to balancing their copper include epilepsy, ADD and ADHD, autism, and any kind of mental or emotional developmental delay. And another reason that you want to balance your copper is because if you have, high copper, you'll have low libido. And it causes, one to lose interest in sex, for many, many reasons. Of course, the person's energy declines and the body can become a bit numb because when the body's excessive tissue calcium, like yours is kind of high, it tends to render the nervous system less sensitive. And it's a compensation mechanism. When we have high copper, our bodies will compensate by increasing our calcium. It's one of the reasons why you have high calcium. And it's one of the ways that our body will prevent us from being too emotionally or physically sensitive because of the high copper. And what this happens is it desensitizes the body, so you get a low sexual interest in men and women, and it also interferes with zinc metabolism. Men's sperm and fluids are very rich in zinc, and so if they become depleted, male fertility and male sexual performance will also suffer.
Oh wow!
So men, if you're having any impotence issues, gotta start taking some zinc. Skip the Viagra. Start taking zinc. You need zinc to gotta replenish that. And the next thing we're going to see on here is, manganese. We don't really go into that too much on the program. We kind of only worry about it if it's really, really high. A lot of people, if they're drinking well water, I've had a lot of my clients in Texas have very high manganese levels. It's,
really?
It's in the water there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I'm from. So
Yeah.
my mom probably.
Yeah, so yours isn't looking too bad. We'll probably see a dump at some point, that jump, but it's not concerning. And on your zinc is really high. But again, it's artificially inflated due to the high copper. It's a defense mechanism.
Well, and I have taken some supplements that are prescribed by your program right over the past month from a friend of mine. She just left them out and said, just start taking some of these. And so I was like, you know what? I only picked the ones that I was like, I don't know what that is. But I picked zinc.
Yeah.
And I picked the multivitamin. So I've been taking that almost every day.
Okay.
So who knows?
It probably won't cause that. This could be from if you ever use a dandruff shampoo. A lot of dandruff shampoos have zinc. It could be from other things, but it's just a little bit high. But I think it's just because of the high copper. But your levels are probably pretty good here. And zinc, it's much likely lower, but it will eventually balance out as the copper reduces and we remineralize your body with good zinc. And almost everyone today is zinc deficient. About 70% of the population is zinc deficient because we've been scared to death out of eating red meat, which is one of the richest sources of zinc. Zinc is a dark-colored mineral, and it's found in dark-colored meats. So,
good to know.
Unfortunately, this is one of the main reasons why we're deficient. And one thing that may be of significance for you, since you used to drink alcohol, is that alcohol reduces zinc. So this is one of the reasons why you're copper toxic. Is this because you said before you were, had used alcohol pretty frequently for a period of time.
Sure.
And that's very likely one of the reasons you're copper toxic.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but you've probably been correcting that, but now sometimes it's hard for a body to correct everything on its own. So this
needs
program
to be kind of flushed and detoxed.
Yeah. You need to be on a targeted supplement program to kind of get it balanced out. It's hard to do everything with diet. So yeah, and this happened to me as well. Unfortunately, after my first divorce, it was a while ago, about 8 years ago. When I got divorced, I was drinking a little bit too much when I was in my not so healthy phase.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the reasons that also led me to become copper toxic as well. So it happens. I haven't had hardly a drink in 5 years, but it's still, 3 years later, when I finally did a hair test, my copper was out of balance.
Yeah.
And then your chromium, it's not looking too bad. It's low, but that's very common. Everyone has low chromium. It's just deficient in the soils. Chromium is important for blood sugar metabolism and to reduce cravings and for sugar and things like that. Selenium, your selenium is low. Everyone pretty much across the board is low with selenium. And we supplement that specifically on the program. And then your phosphorus, it's looking good. It's looking good. It is a little bit low. It's lower than we'd like to see. And this is a vitality indicator so that we kind of know your overall vitality is low. The phosphorus reading is really sensitive, so even a one little point drop in that is huge. It's significant. So on the next couple of tests, we're going to see that raise quite a bit.
Oh, good.
To a good level. And one thing that it's really important for you to know is that low phosphorus is indicative of poor protein synthesis in the body and digestive issues. Many people that have digestive issues, they don't have enough phosphorus, and phosphorus, you have to have that to make stomach acid. And you have to have stomach acid to digest the meats you're eating and the vegetables and break them down. That's the most essential first component of our digestive system. It has to be on point, or the rest doesn't work very well. And your protein synthesis is imperative to regenerate and repair tissues in your body, which is very important for you since you're breaking that down every day. You're breaking down your muscles, lifting weights. So all protein contains phosphorus. So I'd like you to see you eating more fresh meat, and it's fewer. Maybe you said you were eating some protein bars and powders.
Shakes.
Less of that, and more fresh meat.
Absolutely.
So that we get you what you need. And protein synthesis also depends on the health of the liver and the intestines. So once this program whips that liver into shape, and you eat a little bit more meat and take the digestive enzymes that we give you on the program, this level will start improving.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
And so then we're going to get down to your toxic metals. And you'll see down here it's lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, and aluminum. There's many other heavy metals that are not shown on this hair test, but all heavy metals do eventually come out of the body on this hair test. People typically need to be on this program about 2 to 3 years to remove the bulk of heavy metals on their tests. And it's a slow process, but the body can only eliminate so much at a time. It's very dangerous to do heavy metal chelation and other programs like that because it's very hard on the kidneys. It can damage the kidneys, and this program is very slow. It just feeds your body's minerals, and then your body's able to push out the metals when it's ready and in the order in which it needs to do that. And we assist that process with some detox supplements and coffee enemas and infrared saunas, and those are optional. Not everybody's into the coffee enemas, but we highly recommend them.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, they detox your liver, and you guys have heard me babbling a lot about coffee enemas. We don't have to get into it so much here. There's other podcasts on the coffee enemas. There's blog posts on the site, so just check that out if you want to learn about how to clean your liver. And I'm also going to post on the blog post the ideal metal levels that we want to see on our hair tests.
Okay.
But one important thing to note is that all these metals, the lead, mercury, cadmium, arsenic, aluminum, and others, you have all of those in your body. Everyone has all of these in our body. It's just a reality of modern life. But because you have adrenal fatigue, because the test shows a slowed thyroid, which we'll get into in a minute, and why we know that, your metabolism has slowed, and the body just doesn't have the energy to push these things out.
Sure.
And one thing that it does is when we don't have enough minerals in our body, the body is forced to accumulate metals to do certain jobs that it has to be done, enzymatic processes and other things that it has to do, but it can't because it doesn't have the mineral it needs.
Sure.
So our bodies accumulate these heavy metals, and over time they make us sick. So that's why we have to remineralize the body and get that process going. And so the first one is lead. That level, it looks good. But like I said, a lot of lead is stored in the bones. So a lot of times people can do a bone density test and it looks better than it really is.
Sure.
Because there's lead in the bones. So that will start coming out at some point. Your mercury is high. You have really high mercury because you said you didn't eat a whole lot of fish. Your ideal mercury level should be 0.025 milligrams percentage or 0.25 parts per million. And yours up here is almost to like 0.2, 0.206. So that's, it's really, really high. And for most people, the main source of mercury is fish. But you can also get it from drinking tap water and from vegetables and seeds sprayed with fungicides. It's very common if you're not eating organic. Guess what? You're eating fungicides, and
it's probably where I'm getting it. Then. Yeah, because I do eat quite a bit of vegetables, but a lot of times I'll just grab the easier, cheaper way. Yeah. Not thinking, thinking maybe I should be looking at the organic and then going, I don't want to pay another $1. So but I don't want to pay for the rest of my life for that choice. So I'll probably be switching organic.
Yeah, and you can, if you're trying to save money, or like everybody's trying to do, the farmer's market has organic vegetables for the same price as conventional at the grocery store.
That's great.
It's a lot cheaper and it's much fresher. And so it's much more nutrient dense. And that's what I write about in my book, The Modern Killer Survival Guide. I talk about all those little things about how you really need to be, shopping at farmers markets.
Yeah.
So it's perfect. And so back to you.
Okay.
Mercury is also a really good antifungal and microbial agent. So preparation H has mercury in it. Mm-hmm. And so as do other medications, and silver amalgam fillings also contain mercury. But this is an inorganic form of mercury. It does not show on the hair tests, but it is detoxed on this program. We just don't have any way to test it. You can test it at your doctor's if you're dying to find that out. But it does get detoxed on this program, but it just doesn't show on the test. Mercury tends to accumulate in the thyroid and blocking its function. Oh. Pretty much almost every person I test does have high levels of mercury. Mine have stayed consistently high because of my sushi habit, which I'm getting better at. It's, I'm just in denial. I'm coming to the conclusion that I cannot eat sushi and pass my mercury portion of my hair test.
You're like, you keep trying to cheat your way, like, I'm just going to have it one more time and see what happens.
Yeah. And then I had it once in the last 2 months, where I used to have it twice a week.
Yeah. So I used to have it all the time. Now I have none.
It's hard.
I can't eat as much rice right now in my diet, so I've stayed away from it only simply not because of the fish, but because of the rice. And now I'm like, I've heard from other people who are on this program, Leigh, it's certain kind of fish okay, but for the most part, the kind of fish you're eating is all the tunas and things like that are mercury.
Yeah, skipjack has a lot less mercury in it because they only live about 8 years. But the tuna that most people are eating, the cheaper brands of tuna, the fish live for about 20 years, so they have a lot longer time to accumulate mercury. Oh, wow. So if you do eat it, if you're going to eat it, eat skipjack, but I don't even recommend that. What we do recommend is sardines, and any little fish, anchovies, herring, mackerel, sole, things like that. Salmon's very good. I prefer wild caught, of course. But those fish they're not mercury free, they're low mercury, but those are good. Safe to eat.
So like fillet of sole that's probably my favorite white fish. Yeah, so that's great.
It's a small fish. Any small fish is good. And so basically, that's why on this program it's critical to detox mercury to heal that thyroid. We got to get that metabolism going, and you've got to have a healthy working thyroid to maintain a healthy weight. Also, your thyroid regulates your cholesterol levels. A lot of people have high cholesterol. Their doctor gives them cholesterol medicines rather than checking their thyroid. It's always the thyroid.
So interesting.
Always the thyroid. So you got to get the thyroid working, not take statins. And you also have to have your thyroid maintains your body temperature. It burns your calories. The higher body temperature, the more calories you're burning. And so you have to have a high enough body temperature to kill infections. That's why a lot of people, when they've got low working thyroid, they have low body temperature, and they just develop these chronic infections that never go away. Sinus infections, all kinds of stuff. Yeast infections, candida. The body just can't fight it. And so you see a whole host of issues resulting from too much mercury. And that's why I love this program. It detoxes that, feeds that thyroid, gets everything worked out. And then cadmium, you're going to have some of that come out. Everyone does. It's really prevalent in our environment from industrial dumping. Unfortunately, all over the planet, India and China, where they don't have hardly any industrial dumping regulations, all of that manufacturing pollution is floating over here. It's floating to even the most pristine environment in the world, the Antarctic, the Andes Mountains. They're all finding all kinds of toxins and PCBs and other pollutants from this manufacturing. So no one can escape this. No. Unfortunately, it accumulates in our body. And mercury, we breathe it in the air. A byproduct of coal burning for fuel is mercury getting spewed into the air. And so this cadmium, it's real nasty. It causes cancer. It causes hardening of the arteries. It causes kidney disease, all this stuff. So definitely want to get that out. Arsenic, you don't have levels of that now. That will pop up at some point on a subsequent test. Arsenic is fed to chickens to prevent infection. It's any conventional chicken you eat, you're going to El Pollo Loco, you're eating any kind of chicken at any restaurant, it's all full of arsenic.
That is, yeah, I have seen that. I have seen that recently, actually.
Yeah.
And a lot of my, like I told you, a lot of my vegan friends try to get you to switch over by using that. But there's chicken that you can get that is arsenic free, correct?
Oh yeah, like, if you get pastured chicken,
yep,
they are not allowed legally to be routinely fed arsenic. They have to feed them real food and raise them in conditions that promote health, so they don't have to feed them antibiotics and arsenic and things like that. They also feed them the arsenic, because it makes the chickens grow faster. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, they discovered that arsenic makes the meat grows faster.
Well, my family, we have chickens in the backyard, so we're growing them there. They're homegrown, and so the eggs are also coming from them. So that's great.
Yeah, that's
for me,
perfect.
It's perfect.
I want that so bad.
Awesome.
I don't have a yard here for chickens.
Yeah,
but one day I want a little ranch with chickens. Okay, and so your next one is aluminum, and you do have some aluminum here, and there's going to be more where that came from. Everyone has aluminum in them, and it has an affinity for nerve cells, and it concentrates in the brain. And so unfortunately, this contributes to brain fog. Many studies show that it contributes to Alzheimer's, and aluminum is one reason why half of Americans will experience dementia in its many forms during their lifetime. And aluminum is found in antidepressants. That's one of the biggest forms. Cookware, most restaurants cook with a cheap aluminum cookware. Beverages in aluminum cans, tap water, table salt. It's put in there, table salt and flour to keep it from caking. It's in baking powders, antacids. Any guys out there, women popping antacids by the handful every day, guess what? You're getting aluminum toxicity. And processed cheese has it. Bleached flour, vaccines. They don't put mercury in them anymore, but they put some vaccines have mercury, like the flu shot. But now they put aluminum in the vaccines because they have to have some sort of irritant in them to trigger your immune response. And there's also many other medications that have aluminum. Another big source is teas, especially mint tea. All teas have aluminum in them. That doesn't mean you have to completely avoid them. I personally avoid mint tea because it has such high levels. But herbs and teas, they just have an affinity of drawing these metals up into them from the ground, so they just have a high concentration. But these big tea drinkers, you're drinking, in Texas, we're from Texas. Mm-hmm. I grew up drinking tea morning, noon, and night. Right. I know some of my aluminum is from that. Yep. You can get just too much of a good thing. Yep. Every once in a while, great, but morning, noon, and night, maybe not a good idea. And your other metals here, because we don't show them that much, they're what we call pore eliminators. And once we, get your metabolism going, they'll start coming out. And the additional minerals here, we don't tend to worry about those too much. They don't, they do show on the test, but like I said, they all will start coming out. If they're at toxic levels, they'll all start coming out. And for some people, for nickel, that's termed the suicide metal.
Oh, really?
If some people have really high levels of that, they can be very, very angry individuals, even very, very depressed. That's not a fun toxicity to have.
Oh my gosh!
And I've seen a few clients that have nickel toxicity from drinking red teas, like rooibos teas and any other red tea. They're very high in nickel, so I advise avoiding those. Many people aren't aware of that. And so next, we are going to go over the mineral ratios, the significant mineral ratios at the bottom of the test. The first one is the Ca/Mg, that's the calcium to magnesium. The ideal ratio we like to see is 6.67, and yours is 11.56. So it's about, 173% of the ideal. Mm-hmm. And if you look to the right here, you'll see the blue and light blue and white boxes, sections. We want to get everything in that middle, the ideal area.
Perfect.
And so what this means, the Ca/Mg is your carbohydrate tolerance ratio. And that means that you're probably eating a little too many carbohydrates that your body can handle. And even if you're trying to eat a really low carb diet, which I'm not sure if you are or not, but even if you are, you still, for some people, they can still be getting too many carbs. It's just so easy. They just sneak in everywhere. There's just sugar in everything.
Sure.
It's hard to avoid. And people maybe aren't aware of, oh, they just had a little piece of chocolate, or they just had a little bit of lemonade, or whatever it is. It's very easy for it to sneak in. But every person is different. So this ratio shows that you're eating just a few too many carbs for your particular body and metabolism. So that's just something to think about when you're designing your diet. And then the next ratio is a Ca/K. That's the sodium to magnesium ratio. The ideal is 4. Yours is at 17.33.
So that's pretty high.
Yeah, it's high. Yeah, and so this is the adrenal ratio.
Oh, good to know.
And so that's why we know sometimes the individual mineral levels will give us some indications of what's going on, but the ratios really tell us what's going on.
Sure.
And so you're showing some pretty significant adrenal fatigue here based on that.
When because I am a trainer and I am doing a lot of weightlifting, doesn't that suppress the adrenals a little bit when doing excessive amounts of exercise?
It does, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's really, we see this in every athlete, any kind of person who's a professional athlete. They all are pretty much across the board are going to have adrenal fatigue.
Sure.
Our bodies they weren't really designed for a lot of excessive workouts. For instance, hunter-gatherers worked about 17-hour weeks, and the rest of the time they were resting and playing. But for us, or you're working out, 6 days a week, an hour and a half, and plus we're going, plus the stresses of life, plus not sleeping enough, plus too much sugar, plus, not saying you're eating too much sugar, but just a lot of people do. All these things added up, and bam, we have adrenal fatigue.
Yeah.
So there are some people, if you really, that's a fact of your life, that's the reality of your life, is a lot of working out, and so that's not going to change. So you want to compensate in other areas of your life. Make sure you get 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night. Make sure you try to do the meditation that we recommend on this program. It's the Roy Masters meditation. Just try to curb other areas of your life where it could be stressful.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so that's what I recommend. And so for a lot of people, the adrenal fatigue or insufficiency it's simply defined as an inability for it to produce the required level of hormones. And like I said before, it produces about 10 hormones. And for a lot of people, they have normal blood tests. But this is a tissue test. So it shows a little bit different angle than a blood test. A blood test, like any test, any test can have inaccuracies. Any test you give at your doctors, if they're sending it to a crappy lab, you may not be getting accurate results.
Absolutely.
If you, hopefully a lot of doctors are sending their tests to really good labs like Cyrex or Biodata or other labs or Metametrics that are really, really good labs. But if they're not, your blood test could be inaccurate as well. So you can have false positive or false negatives. And the hair test, it is a good, fairly accurate tool. Is it always 100% no? It depends on if you wash your hair properly. You have to prep the hair properly prior to being tested. It also has to go to a good lab that does not wash the hair. Most labs wash the hair. That's why a lot of people and doctors dismiss hair tests as not being accurate. And they're correct.
Yeah.
Because if you don't send it to a good lab, you're not going to get accurate results. So the testing company I use is called Analytical Research Labs. They do not wash the hair. They're a very good company. But even still, there can be inaccuracies in the hair test. But not enough to affect the designing of your program. So it's accurate enough for the purposes of designing a nutritional balancing program.
Sure.
But my original point was that your blood test can be normal, but this tissue test can show reduced function. And that's what I like about it. It reveals a deeper level of the body functioning. And I would always go with the results based on the hair test, since blood tests have their limitations. They're only like a 1 minute picture of what's going on in your blood. Your blood constantly changes. It's constantly changing. But a lot of adrenal tests, they're doing the saliva test. The cortisol saliva test is more accurate than a blood test. So, like I said, there's many different ways to test this. I prefer a hair mineral analysis because it gets to a deeper level of testing. Plus, the hair test is a way to design a program, a comprehensive program to actually heal the adrenals and get them back functioning. When I went to my naturopathic doctor and I found out that I had adrenal fatigue for the first time, she suggested hormone replacement. I would never do that. No. Studies show that contributes to cancer. It does not heal your adrenals. I think for anyone, the ultimate goal is addressing the cause of what your health problem is. So that's what this program does. It addresses the cause and heals the cause so that it gets those adrenals working. And low adrenal function is also evidence in the reduced ability to handle stress. So if you don't handle stress as well as you used to, and you just get flustered really easy, guess what? You have adrenal fatigue. And the adrenals get fatigued due to stimulants like caffeine, sugar, coffee, prescription and recreational stimulants like amphetamines, Adderall, Ritalin, cocaine, diet pills like phentermine, etc., Dexatrim. Excessive exercise can also contribute, like we talked about.
It's really interesting because I think what I told you in the past is, obviously when I got sober, one of the things that I had an addiction to was Adderall. Mm-hmm. That was my main addiction for about 9 years of my life. Yeah. So I wonder, it was very long ago. I mean, I haven't used Adderall in many, many years, but still, I've always felt like with the amount of Adderall that I used back in those days to keep myself thin, it had to have affected me in the long haul.
Yeah, you probably went into a state of adrenal fatigue at that point and stayed there. Yep. And it's just one of those things that will just continue to get worse and worse. But you can heal it with this program. But a lot of people are using some form of stimulants. The main source of antioxidants in most people's diet is coffee. There's a reason Starbucks is so popular. Everybody loves their coffee. Most people are doing some form of a stimulant, and there's a reason. It's just because they don't have energy, and they're naturally compensating for that lower
Giving
level.
A false boost.
Yeah, we need it. I need it. So basically, when the thyroid and adrenals are not working properly, our metabolism and our oxidation rate slows. Hence, your hair test will show slow oxidation. And the implications of this are that your body is slowed down, preventing you from being able to detox. So toxins accumulate, and you become more toxic over time and become sicker and sicker. Mm. And then the next ratio here is the Na/K. That's the vitality ratio. Yours is 2.5, but your current ratio is 3.17, so it's pretty good. Good. You're not dead yet. Yeah.
Yay.
And so, this could change. We know that metals can push this up, and, we'll get a truer reading on retests. And this ratio is also intimately linked to adrenal function. And yours is in a good range right now, but like I said, it'll be likely lower on your next test. And the first 3 months on this program, you're going to remove some metals, and it'll come down a little bit. And the next one is the zinc/copper, the Zn/Cu. And that it's showing copper toxicity. There's many other indicators of that on your test, but that's what that ratio reveals. And then basically for your program, you're going to be on about 12 supplements that we're going to recommend. 4 are optional. Okay. So really the minimum people need to take on this program are 8 supplements, and you take them at every meal. It's a lot of pills, but minerals are really bulky. We need a lot of minerals in our bodies. Our bodies are very, very deficient. We have about 3 pounds of minerals in our body. So we have to take a lot of minerals to replenish them. Okay. Unfortunately, and we have to do that for a number of years.
Wow.
So this program is not for the weak of heart. This is not for someone looking for a quick fix. This is for people serious about regaining their health. Okay. And it does take a commitment, but the least you have to do is take the supplements. Ideally we want your diet is a very important source of minerals. meat, cooked vegetables. We want you to eat tons of cooked vegetables so that you can access the minerals that are inside the vegetables. You've got to break down that cell wall and cook the vegetables. Diet's very important. The supplements are very important. The other aspects are not as important. We recommend the coffee enemas, the infrared saunas, meditation. Those you can do as needed or as you can have time and the drive to incorporate them into your life. But the very minimum is try to do the diet that we recommend. You're going to be doing the slow oxidizer diet, and that's on the website. You can do a search for that. That's what most people need to be doing. And then you take your supplements and do the other things as best you can.
Okay.
Incorporate those as best you can. And for lifestyle, we definitely recommend sleep, the 8 to 10 hours a night, and the meditation is very good at calming your body down because you have to be in a calm state to detox. If you're in that fight or flight mode, that adrenal fatigue mode, where you're constantly running on adrenaline, that's called the parasympathetic nervous system state. It's the sympathetic nervous system state. So when you're in that sympathetic nervous system state, you can't digest your food, you can't detox because your body's in fight or flight mode.
Sure.
It's life or death mode. So it's only when you're relaxed, and in a relaxed state is when your body detoxes. Yeah. And so this is another reason why stress kills. And basically that's about it. We recommend a retest about every 3 months. And how was that for you?
That's perfect. You know what? I have, like I said, there were so many things. I wasn't feeling terrible, but there were many things that I had question marks in my head about. And today I feel like, for the most part, I can see, as time goes on, I'll be able to feel the difference of what occurs. But it did really answer a few of my questions about, bruising and things that were going on. And like I told you, I'm not very sensitive. I think I said that in the first part of the podcast, is I'm not very sensitive. And it's funny because in here it's saying my body is somewhat desensitized. So sometimes I'm not even feeling the effects, although I am somewhat lethargic. So
yeah, you're gonna start crying.
Oh Lord!
Because I found when I was very desensitized when I first started the program, and I thought, I just never cry. I'm just not that kind of person. But as my calcium levels started coming down, I started feeling more, and I found that I was just much more in touch with my emotions and much more in touch with myself and my feelings, and I would cry easier and whatnot. When watching a movie, I'm like,
where is this coming from? I was never this person before.
Yeah, but and what's also a beautiful part of the program is that because you are feeding your mind, your brain, the minerals that it needs, and your body's kind of balancing out, your mind's going to start working better, and you're going to have this profound sense of like, I don't want to say enlightenment, but you're going to develop a profound sense of spirituality as well. And I can't explain it. It sounds really corny. And when my practitioner first told me this, I was like, whatever. I just want to know about the physical stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're like, let's talk about the metabolism again.
Yes. Yeah. But it's true. And I can't explain it, but I really have developed a profound sense of spirituality on this program.
That's amazing. Well, I'm
really
excited to start and see what happens with all of these levels, and then tell you what my feelings are, because I don't know what they are. I'm just kidding. One
reality of this program is that you will have healing reactions. That's what we call them. They're detox symptoms as deep body chemistry changes and deep healing occurs. So you could experience, headaches, fatigue, nausea. Fatigue is a big part of it because we're taking away those heavy metal crutches that the adrenals were using. You can have any kind of imaginable symptom, but they go away.
Just like detoxing from anything.
Yeah.
Usually it has to come up and out.
Yes, it does.
So
retracing is a process where the body kind of goes back and it revisits old chronic infections in order to heal them completely. So you could have flare-ups of chronic infections like sinuses or yeast infections. You could have inflammation at the sites of infection or old injuries like your hip. An inflammatory process may occur for a few days or less on old injury sites. Common sites are the eyes, ears, throat, sinuses, bladder, intestines. But they'll pass usually in a few days, with supportive measures like more rest or Really a very good way of managing detox symptoms is the coffee enemas.
Right.
Whenever I have a headache or I feel nauseous, it's usually the body just detoxing. All this gunk is floating around, and if you do a coffee enema, it's able to dump it all. Nausea instantly gone, headache gone, whatnot. It could be from the caffeine in the coffee dilating the blood vessels, but I just feel better after I do one.
I hear that all the time. I've got to do that. That's my next thing I'm gonna do.
Once you try one, it's a little freaky, but once you try one, most people that I've got started doing them, I get really into them.
Yep.
Because they feel so much better after they do them, and they really are life-saving for some people. Some people that are really toxic. You have a pretty good hair test here.
Yay!
Some people are really toxic. Okay, and they're sick. And so they're going to have a lot more stuff coming out, and the coffee enemas can really save them from some of the detox issues. And brain fog. Brain fog is a big problem for a lot of people. The coffee enemas are amazing for that. Amazing.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Awesome.
I keep saying that, but then I start babbling again.
Thank you so much.
Do you have any questions?
You know what? I don't yet. I can't wait to start the program, and I'm sure I'll have questions as they come along. I'll bring those up on the podcast, but for today I just feel a little bit enlightened, slightly overwhelmed.
Yeah, it is overwhelming.
Ready to start.
That's the thing I do on the first test. I do kind of throw a lot of info at people, but you don't have to feel like you have to absorb or remember everything I'm saying. You get a 17-page lab report that kind of goes into a little bit more detail about the test, and the only thing you have to know is to take the supplements that I recommend and do the diet. That's all you have to do. And then you slowly will learn more about and understand more about what I'm talking about.
Right.
And it'll start to sink in. But it's overwhelming, but it's not. All you have to do is take the supplements.
And like you said, the mineral analysis packet that I have from my hair test really does explain in full detail what each of these things, does. So I don't have to remember it.
You don't have to remember it.
Go back and look and see what copper toxicity is and what it does. So anyway, thank you so much.
Yeah, so everyone, if you're interested, I have got a new store on the site. It's called the live to110.com/store is where you can find it. And basically, I'm going to sell all the supplements. I started as a way for my clients to be able to easily purchase their supplements, but anyone can purchase them. And I'm going to have a free program supplement pack. If you're not able to afford a hair mineral analysis, there will be a free supplement program pack where you can take the supplements that I recommend for every person to take, even if they're not on a hair test. It will be the exact nutrients that your body needs, or the best ones that really I recommend for anyone, that every human being should be on. Okay. And you can follow the diet, the slow oxidizer diet, and that'll bring you about 50% halfway if you're not able to do the whole program. But I also have saunas. I'm manufacturing little mobile near infrared saunas.
That is so awesome. I saw a little bit of. I got a little sneak peek of it, and first of all, crafty and smart, and I can't even believe you can get this done. But on top of it, not everyone can have an infrared sauna in their home, but now they can. Yeah,
amazing. That's what I use. I first started going to little spas that had far infrared saunas, but they're like, they're $20 to $40 per session. It adds up. And so finally, I just succumbed and bought a little 3-bulb contraption. It's $350. It's not that much, and I just have one in my shower, and I just have it all. You got to kind of seal it off. You got to seal off your shower. But I just sit in there with a little space heater, and I cook out those toxins.
It's so cool.
Yeah. And also, everyone, I've got a contest I'm doing every month, so you can win a free hair mineral analysis. There's a blog post on the site. It's just called, just search for free hair mineral analysis, and it's also on the sidebar. You'll see a little graphic for that to win a free hair test, so just enter there. And we draw a person at random every single month. And we'll do a hair test reading exactly like you heard on the show today.
That is so cool. Well, and for myself, the General Leigh Lowery, I now have my online training program in full effect. So I have 2 programs available. One is a 13-week program, really helping you get into shape. And then the other one is an extended 26-week program. You can find both of those on generalleigh.com, or you can go to my Facebook, which is now General Leigh Fitness and Nutrition. I've changed the name of my page to officially be generally fitness and nutrition. So I was excited about that. But the opportunity to do my online program is there as well. So please check me out.
I can't wait to start your in-person program.
I know. I can't either.
I'm scared.
No, I was telling you earlier, we're going to do a booty blast.
Oh, right.
That's my specialty is the tush. So.
That's what I need, because I'm going to be a speaker on the Jimmy Moore's Live and La Vida Low Carb Cruise.
That's right.
And I need a booty blast before I go on the cruise.
That's what we're going to do. We're going to do the pre-cruise booty blast.
Yeah, if anyone of you guys want to join me, the cruise is May 18th to the 25th, and we're going to the Coco Key in the Bahamas.
Whoa!
We are going to be going to St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands.
That's amazing.
And to St. Martin in the Dutch island, Dutch Antilles.
That's right. That's right.
So if you guys want to join me, I'm going to be speaking on that and talking about how chemicals make you fat. Obesogens. Obesogens are chemicals that make you fat.
That's right.
And so basically, guys, go on live110.com if you want to learn more about me, Wendy Myers, and learn more about nutritional balancing, which incorporates all kinds of stuff that we've talked about today on the show. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter at I Will Live to 110. And I'm also on YouTube at Wendy Live to 110.
Very cool. And if you want to know more about me or watch me work out and help you, you can find me at generalleigh.com. You can also find me on my Facebook, which we just talked about, at General Leigh Fitness and Nutrition. You can follow me on Twitter as well. And I'm on Instagram under the Gen Leigh. So, and if you like what you heard on this show, please give us the Live to 110 podcast review on iTunes. We would love your positive review.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Remember, health is not just the absence of disease and symptoms. Thank you so much for listening to the Live to 110 podcast.